What if the blueprint of pyramid architecture has always been around us? What if the modern day Luaks, which are traditional huts in Dinka and Nuer culture, share the same ancient architectural principles as those of the pyramids? Could the Luaks be pyramids in disguise? Stay with me as I explain my theory on this. So I have been very intrigued to understand our history as the Nilotic people that live along the Nile in general. Despite the fact that most of our history is orally passed down from one generation to another, therefore making it a bit complex and nuanced as you move from one community to another due to our different cultural perceptions. Nevertheless, I feel like my dad has really been helpful in helping me understand our history as a people, and of late, I couldn't help but notice that our history usually talks about us migrating from one place to another. So I went ahead and asked him about it, and he guided me, recommended the book called General History of Africa Volume 2 that talks about ancient civilizations in Africa. And in this book, he quotes the fact that our migration as an Nilotic people, especially the Nuer and the Dinkas, started back then from southern and central, as far as central Egypt to southern Egypt, moving downwards. But my curiosity didn't end there. I wanted something tangible that could prove to be a reference point of our migration southwards, and this led me to the pyramids. If you observe the pyramids in Egypt, which are larger and older, are built in clusters, similar to the pyramids in Sudan, which are smaller, are also built in clusters, which makes me believe that there's a similarity between those pyramids and the African huts, because our huts are also built in clusters to symbolize a sense of community. This is an example of a luak, right? The traditional huts in Dinka and Nuer culture. Throughout history, architecture has served not only as shelter but also a mirror reflecting humanity's understanding of the universe, spirituality, and balance. And the Luaks, which are conical dome-shaped huts, have also sheltered generations across the Nile Valley and beyond. As you can see, the image of the Luak has a distinctive conical and layered architectural design that gives it both visual majesty and cultural strength. The structure rises in a tapered pyramid-like cone, narrowing elegantly towards the top, and the roof is composed of multiple horizontal layers of rings of thatch, carefully arranged in a pattern that creates a ripple effect. Each layer slightly overlapping the one below it to allow rainwater to run off easily. And this design not only makes it visually striking but also highly functional for tropical and semi-arid climates. Furthermore, the base of the luau is wide and circular, supported by vertical wooden poles that form the frame of the structure. The entrance is small and low, inviting the person to bow slightly as they enter. Architecturally, the luau's form is symbolically similar to a pyramid. It widens at the base, representing connection to the earth and community, and narrows upwards, perhaps symbolizing the human or spiritual connection to the divine. And the layered spiraling design reflects an ancient understanding of balance, proportion, and sustainability that is passed down through generations. Moreover, as you can see, there are different pyramid shapes. If my argument before doesn't convince you, you can see there's a Khufu pyramid, a Khafre pyramid, Menkaure pyramid, Josa pyramid, a red pyramid, a bent pyramid, a maiden pyramid, and Hawara pyramid. And as you can see, the bent pyramid structurally looks the same as the luaks across the Nile. I mean, across South Sudan and along the Nile, as you can observe. We have many pyramids in the form of luaks that have been built along the Nile in present day South Sudan that serve as a good representation and reminder that we never stopped building the pyramids as we migrated southwards. And a good example is the pyramid of Ngundengbong that was built between the 1870s and 1880s. It's a great pyramid that is 60 feet high and 300 feet in circumference and was built in the shape of a loak, which is now in present day Nuer land. This pyramid resembles the pyramid of Luangda Yul Longar in Fangak that was built in the early 16th century by Jing Padang clans, and as built as a burial place for Ayuil Longar after Jing crossed Bahr el Ghazal in the 17th century AD. Another great example is the Pyramid of Ayuil, which was built by another Jing pyramid in Upper Nile called Luanga Yongdit, which was built by the Jing Dongjol in Akoka, and was built by the orders of Ayongdit himself, who was to be buried alive in that Luak, which was later to be built as a pyramid. And this brings me to my argument as to why I believe the traditional Luaks are the modern day pyramids in our Nilotic culture. Because in ancient Egypt, the pyramids were used as monumental tombs to bury pharaohs and consorts. And pharaohs were seen as spiritual leaders in ancient Egypt. Similar to our Nilotic culture, specifically the Jing, pyramids or Luaks were used to bury Jing master of spear, who we call the Benyabit, used to be buried alive to pass their powers to their successors.